Welcome to the Streets and People podcast presented by Get Around Cabo Carfree. Get Around Cabo Carfree is a volunteer community movement advocating for more transport options for people who can't drive in Caboolture and Morayfield in Queensland. In today's podcast, we'll be covering one of these three broad topics. It might be Road Rules 360, where we discuss Queensland's road rules, the legislation, the design for people walking, biking, in wheelchairs or on a scooter. It might be Not Everyone Drives, where we chat with people whose transport options don't include a car in a car-dependent society. And it might be People and Projects, where our conversations are with people working on a specific aspect of inclusive transportation. Good morning. Today it's one of our Not Everyone Drives episodes. This is actually our second one. We're still getting the hang of podcasting, so please bear with us while we get the hang of podcasting and audio, and we're in our very high flash studio, otherwise known as the spare room in my office. And we're on Gubby Gubby country, and today I'm here with Chris. And Chris, I know you because we met at the gym. You were doing a whole lot of exercises, getting ready for your hip operation, and I was having to cycle all the way down Morayfield Road, the horrible and scary Morayfield Road, and I'd arrived there in such a frazzled state. It was terrible. So you were doing some prep work, and so you couldn't drive, I think you said, from September to January, so for about 5 months?
That's correct, yes.
And what was it like for you to not be able to drive in that time? What surprised you? What was good? And what was terrible?
I don't think there was anything good about it. I'm a very independent person. Don't like relying on people, particularly my husband, because he has road rage. And that was very hard on me. I found that because at the same time I stopped driving, I also gave up work. So it was a big change in my life. I couldn't go anywhere unless someone took me because we live on acreage. There's no bus service. There is nothing where I live. Also, we live at the end of a cul-de-sac. To get up to the main street, it's quite a big hill. And with a bad footpath, someone with a bad hip or any disability just can't do it.
So let me just see if I've got this correct. When you say acreage, you're talking about 2 acres?
Yes.
So we're not talking, huge estates. No. We're not talking about a huge farm. You're just down at the other end of Morayfield,
yes,
which I think they used to be quite large blocks, 5 acres and larger. But now with more urbanisation, that's not quite such the case. And so you're on a road that goes from Morayfield to, did you say Burpengary?
It does. One side of us goes to Burpengary. The other side, Oaky Flat Road, goes through to Narangba.
What street is that street like? Is it quite a busy road? Is it 1 lane on either side? Is it 2 lanes on either side? Is it curved? What sort of road is that like?
Oaky Flat Road?
Yes.
It's a major road. It is only 2 lanes, 1 lane either way. Not all the way through to Narangba has curb and channeling because some of it is still being developed. But it is a very busy road. There's a lot of traffic along there.
Are there houses along there where, for instance, they've done the road to make it better for drivers, but they haven't upgraded the footpath quality at the same time? Or is it just old works that were along Oaky Flat Road and we're still with the old road and then that hasn't been done? Because often they'll do the road, but they won't do the footpath.
Most of it, how Oaky Flat Road is now, is how it's been for 30 plus years, because we've been there 30 years. They have widened sections of it.
Yeah.
I don't think any work has been done. I do tell a lie.
Well, I'm sure you...
Down the one side of Oaky Flat Road, they do have curb and concrete footpath, but it would be it's basically from Bridges Road heading back into Morayfield, not the other way towards Narangba.
So if someone is going from, say, Bridges Road and then going to Morayfield, is there a footpath on one side for the whole length? Or do you have to swap over? Because there's this really weird thing I've come across in Caboolture where you go along, there's a footpath on one side, and then by some magic genie effect, you have to boing over to the other side because there's no pedestrian crossing or anything like that. And then you can continue on, and then you have to boing over to them back on this side.
No, I think particularly with the latest developments along Oaky Flat Road up closer to Morayfield, the concrete path actually goes all the way through to Morayfield Road now.
How wide is the footpath? Is it 1.20 or 1.50? How wide would you say, and how smooth is that?
The footpath, just on the one side, it's quite a nice width, and the concrete path would be, I would say, close to 1 metre wide that they've done there.
So it's still quite narrow. I mean, that must be minimum width, because mostly now the minimum requirement, I can't remember what it is. I should know, because I should deal with this, but it should be wider than that, because that would be very much minimum standard. So that would be to the old standard. Does that sound right?
It could be. I mean, it has grass on either side. It's just this strip down the middle.
Yeah.
So, and as I said, but that sort of stops. And I do have to get from Linden Court to there, which is not easy.
During the time, so that 5 months when you, because when I met you had to be on medication as well.
Yes.
Which meant that you couldn't drive, and suddenly you were going, oh wow, I can't drive. You know, this is a very car dependent area. We're on the outer suburbs of Brisbane, and yeah, if you don't drive, you're really stuffed. So what was it like, A, to discover what the bus service like? Did you have a bus service in your area?
Not as far as I know. There's a school bus, but I didn't think I would qualify for that.
Yeah, you probably need a blue card to get on the bus service. I mean, that's an interesting idea. Could you get a blue card to use the bus service?
Actually, I've got one because I'm a teacher. Yeah,
oh, yeah,
you never thought of
there
that.
You go.
Yeah.
You probably could have done that. It's an interesting idea that maybe where there are these problems, if you've got a blue card and you can use that service in your local area, why not be able to use that, you know? The fact that the kids are noisy down the back, oh, well, so be it. At least you've got a bus service, you know. Gee, that makes a difference. And so the medication, you were not allowed to drive because that affected your motor skills or your thinking capacity, your cognitive skills?
I was actually on morphine, and I was lucky. It was only a small dose, and it was the tiredness. I chose not to drive. I wasn't told I couldn't, but I chose because it's my right hip that's been replaced. I could not lift my leg from the accelerator to the brake quickly, and I felt that I was a danger to me and to other people, and I knew it. If I ever had to brake quickly, I couldn't. There's no way I would have been able to do it.
And thank you very much for being responsible about that, because a lot of people go, well, I still need to get everywhere, I don't care. But actually there are 3 people a day in Australia who are killed from collisions, and then there's a whole lot of people who, I can't remember, is it something like every 4 minutes there is one person who leaves with a disability after a crash. And that affects obviously the families, because they have to deal with all the care responsibilities, lost income. Collisions are a huge, huge thing. $30 billion a year it costs in the Australian public person economy to have all those collisions happen. So thank you very much for having a more miserable, socially isolated life and not driving during that time. So you said there was nothing good. I wondered whether maybe you might have increased in compassion for people who don't drive, or be more aware now that you do drive, you've started driving in the last couple of weeks, whether you're more thoughtful in the way that you drive with people. Or
I don't think it was maybe the not being able to drive, that was part of it, but having the hip problem has made me much more aware of using disabled toilets because the other ones are full, and just being aware of people if they're getting out of their cars slowly. You know, it mightn't be because they're old or wasting time. It could be that they can't move fast, because I had all that sort of thing eventually taking the ability to drive away from me. It was hard. It's hard to explain how you feel. You start feeling less than human.
I was unemployed a few years ago. I lost my sense of dignity in the world. It's like nobody cares about me. And it was just awful, this real sense of you don't realise you lose dignity until you have
lose it.
It's like you have no worth. Nobody cares about your worth in society, and it's like that's what dignity is. You have no worth in the eyes, or you have no value in the eyes of society. That's my experience of being unemployed and the sort of hoops I had to go through for unemployment benefits and things, which I gave up on in the end because it was just too horrible. When you describe what that experience was for you, the lack of being able to get out, the social isolation, is it that sense of lost dignity in life?
You lose your confidence, And it is dignity because, and I know it's not true, but I felt that people were looking at me and judging the way I walked because I walked pretty badly. It got that way. I think the pain now, I didn't realise at the time, it showed on my face. So I felt that everyone was looking at me and not seeing the real me, not seeing who I was. They were judging just what they saw. And that was hard.
Was it pity? Did you feel pitied?
Not pitied, but distaste, could you say?
Okay.
You know, that I wasn't normal. And I know that was all in my mind.
Maybe, maybe not. It sounds like what you're describing is people had contempt for your experience.
Yes, yeah. And they didn't know what my experience was. And that's what I say to my grandkids. I said, don't judge someone because you don't live in their life.
Yeah.
You know, and I think I have learnt a lot. I have learnt just to think before I think, you know, I wish that person had moved or something. I do think, and I will never ever use a disabled toilet again because I've been there, not being able to get down low enough to the normal ones, and someone will walk out normally and they might have their trolley or they might just walk out, and I'm thinking, you know, the sign is there for a reason.
Yeah.
So that, not that I used them a lot, I hardly ever did, but now I never will.
Yeah.
I never will again, and my family has been told never to do it either.
Yeah, so it sounds like you have more thoughtfulness about your immediate actions, and that perhaps before you took for granted, oh, well, it won't matter. Now you go, actually, these tiny, tiny little things that you just go, oh, it won't matter. You go, yeah, actually, it does.
It does.
For somebody who that is their only thing that is what they need, to remove that as an option, that has become really vivid to you.
Very much so. As I said, I watch people trying to get in and out of cars now, and I just wait.
Yeah.
You know, there's no thinking, I wish they'd hurry up or get out of the way or let me do this. I just wait because I think I've been there.
Yeah.
I know what it feels like. I know what it's like to have people standing there staring at you while you're trying to do it.
Yeah.
And it's not nice.
Yeah, to feel pressurised. You already have, it sounds like, maybe your own sense of shame about not being able to be active in the way that you used to be.
Exactly.
And now you've got your own pressure and your own shame about that. And then in a way, they're also shaming you for not being effective and quick and, come on, get with the program.
Normal.
And so you said you retired. I believe you were a teacher, is that right?
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, you said that you retired and this operation, you were not able to travel at the same time, so you kind of got stuck with a new lifestyle.
Yes.
A really big lifestyle change. I think big lifestyle changes take about 18 months to get the hang of. By the time you've figured out kind of your new way of being in the world, I think, you know, divorce or any of these big relationship changes to your work, your identity, that takes about 18 months, I think. Did you give up the job because you couldn't actually get there easily? Was that part of the factor?
I gave up the job because of pain.
Yeah.
I just thought I can't do this anymore because a lot of stairs where I had to go up and down because I was a specialist teacher. So I was only in a class for half an hour, and then I'd go to the next one. And for some reason it'd be up the stairs, then down the stairs, up another lot. So I had to give it up because of the pain.
Yeah.
Just one afternoon I just thought I can't do this anymore. And then it was about 4 days after that I went to the doctor and was put on morphine, and I said to her, I can't drive. The job went first. I thought I can't go back. And then I thought, well, I'm not being safe driving either. They were all my choice, or my body forced me. It wasn't someone that said you can't work anymore, you're not capable.
Yeah.
They weren't like that at all. When I said to the doctor about the driving, she said that was a very wise thing to do. She'd actually said to me, did you drive here this morning? I said, yes, but I'll drive myself home and then that's it. And she was very supportive and pleased I was doing that. But from that day on, yes, I was stuck at home unless my husband took me. And I did make him take me things because I still went to the gym 3 or 4 times a week. But it was that inconvenience of him having to take me there. Then he had to come back and pick me up.
I guess you're lucky because did he work from home or is he retired?
He's retired.
If you hadn't had your own personal chauffeur...
I would have gone nowhere for 5 months.
Nowhere?
Nowhere.
You would have to do your medical appointments online, your telehealth or something like that. You would have had to have done that. You could get groceries delivered. You can do that now these days. Do you know if there are services that are provided for people who need transport to go to medical appointments? Do you know if that even exists? You could probably have gotten a taxi or something maybe?
Probably. I would imagine I could have done anything if I wanted to pay for it. But having said that too, I wouldn't have been completely stuck because I have an absolutely beautiful family. The trouble is they work.
Yeah.
And my grandkids are 15 and 17, so they don't have... But on weekends, I know they would have done whatever they could have for me. But yes, if you don't have a partner or if you don't have someone that can come and get you, well, where I am, you're stuck. Yeah. And as I said, it would have been 5 months. Yeah. It would have been 5 months.
And you can imagine somebody who, like you, and say your husband had died, or divorced or whatever it is, you were a single woman, because there are a lot of single mums around here, lots and lots and lots and lots. And you can imagine you retire, you're single, maybe you don't have kids, because lots of people don't have kids. I don't have kids, for instance. And that is not difficult to imagine around here.
Definitely not. Oh, probably not difficult anywhere. Yeah. Just we don't know about it, sort of thing, which is a shame. Yeah, now that I can drive again, it's really good.
So you were socially isolated for 5 months. You said there were also some curb and channeling in your street, some of it. So they've built the road, and that's quite new, it sounds like. Is that right?
No, we've been there 30-something years, so it's got curb and channeling down the side, and it's got the bitumen road, but the footpaths, grass and dirt, obviously, and very uneven. There's no concrete strip down the middle of them or anything like that.
How fast do the cars go down there? So if you were, say, in a wheelchair or on a scooter, like if you were a teenager and you wanted to get down to Morayfield station or Narangba station or something, how could you do that on the road? Is that a possibility? Or if you were in one of those motorised wheelchairs, also called the mobility scooter, the four-wheeler ones, would you have been able to do that?
Using the road, the street, Linden Court, yes. You just have to be careful of the cars because some people come down nice and slowly because it's actually a U shape.
Okay.
And other cars fly down there.
So it's hit and miss. They really need to put some slowing down on that. What's the speed limit in that street?
50.
When a driver is driving at 50 kilometres an hour and they hit anything, basically that person is dead. So that's just that.
Oh, definitely would be.
Because there's something to do with the way that our brain functions, that when we are going at that speed, we're looking for objects. Once we come down to 30 kilometres an hour, then you can start looking out for people and you're much more cautious as a driver. I know that the shift from 50 to 30 is a big one. It is a global thing where they're starting to go 50 kilometres an hour is way too fast in suburban areas. And if you were to go from the bottom of your Linden Court up to Oakey Flat, how long is that road, do you think? Like how many minutes?
In a car?
Yeah.
Probably 5 to 7 because I know Linden Court alone is 800 metres and then you turn left, and it's a good, I'd say it'd be close to another 800 metres out to Oakey Flat Road too. And once again, you couldn't go on the footpath. You can walk on it. Yeah. I just found, because it was so uneven and I was so conscious of falling. Yeah. Because if I fell on that hip, I was...
Yeah, you were done for.
I was done for. Yeah. So anyone with a mobility scooter or something like that would have to go on the road. Yeah. And to turn left out of Linden Court is you're at the top of a hill. Yeah. And the cars fly up Bridges Road. Right. I wouldn't like to be in the mobility scooter going down Bridges Road towards Oakey Flat.
Linden Court would be Council Road, so that would be very useful to do some traffic calming on there and not difficult to do that. And you would actually just have residents anyway coming into that space. So it's a dead end.
It is.
So you could put in some traffic calming to get people to go slower, particularly on those dangerous things. If you're on a straight, it's not such a problem. But if you're coming around or over a crest, just slowing down those points, that would make a huge difference. And it's cheaper to just turn down the road speed, the speed limit, down to 40. Definitely that would make a huge difference for that. You would need to set up some calming as well.
Well, and that's it. And, you know, coming, because the long part down the hill of Linden Court, and then it's quite a sharp turn, you can't see what's coming. And that's the same, you go along a bit further, and now it's another sharp turn up to the end of the street. And once again, and particularly if there's cars parked, because I know I drive very carefully through there in case a car comes the other way. I only used a walker, but I did not take it out on Linden Court because I didn't feel it was safe.
When you say a walker, it's one of those you hold them and then you just go along sort of 10 centimetres, 5 centimetres at a time?
No, it had wheels.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the wheels. You push it along.
If there had been sort of safe space for you to move on that space, you could actually probably have used a motorised wheelchair for that if the infrastructure had been in place. And then you wouldn't have had the social isolation in that space. So it goes to show that how much the urban infrastructure, the street infrastructure, impacts social isolation. You can see the direct correlation
definitely.
there.
Yeah. It's not something I'd thought of until I was in that situation. I thought, I can't go anywhere. And I guess I'm luckier than most because I'm on 2 acres, so I've got open space. But yes, to be on a small suburban block and be isolated like that, I think it would drive me nuts.
And did you find that friends came and visited you, or did you find that your friends changed in the nature of how they interacted with you?
No, not really, because it's not that I have friends that come to the house. All my friends are my workmates, or my gym mates. Family. It's different. My sons came and my granddaughter, she often comes. But as for friends, as I said, it's mainly outside people. And that was my choosing because actually I like to have friends. And I've found I've been married for 50-something years and he doesn't get along with people.
He's got his own strong personality. So you need to have a big social life. Go out and do these things, and maybe you would have liked to have done, you know, if you're at home and you're in pain, if you had a mobility scooter that you could use on a road which was safe, then you could have maybe started doing something to take your mind off the pain, like I'm just making it up, but painting classes or something like that. You might have wanted to go out to take up an activity just for that period where, particularly in that transition from retirement, you would have liked to have taken up an activity.
Yes, I think that's why I insisted that I keep going to the gym. Plus it was to keep myself mobile because I had to keep everything moving, otherwise I would have been in a lot worse state. So I think my saviour during that time before the operation was the gym, but having to rely on someone to get me there and get me home wasn't a nice thing to have to go through. If I hadn't have had that, I think mentally I would have been in a pretty
that actually
state.
So this is what they've found with social isolation, is that there are some things that happen. One is more medical visits, more medications because people are in pain more because they are lonely, more addiction, so gambling, alcohol, substance addiction. And I think you know exactly why that happens now.
Oh, definitely. As I said, I've always been, I felt, a strong person. And I was surprised at the mental impact, one, the pain had on me. I didn't expect that. And then the feeling of not being able to do the things that I wanted to do.
And now you are able to do those things. So now you can drive everywhere. Your hip has been replaced.
It has. A beautiful shiny one.
And that operation sounds like it's been quite successful. You went to the doctor yesterday and you got the full tick of approval. Don't come and see me again. Thank you very much.
That's what he said. And the only thing he said not to do was sit on the floor. And I said, is that forever? And he said, if it was my hip, yes.
I mean, it's good that you have come from a Western family background, because if you're in other cultures, sitting on the floor, they often eat dinner.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's just a lucky thing that you have this Western cultural background. And now you're able to move out, you go to the gym, you do all those things that you wanted to do, you're settling into a new transition into retirement. Are you retiring?
Yes, I won't be staying at home full time.
And so now you can drive. So your sense of dignity and frustration, that has all returned. So,
yes.
But you now have the sensitivity and compassion, sort of a softening in your heart, and maybe a little bit more softening in your heart for yourself as well, having gone through this very difficult experience.
I think that's true. I've realised that I do have to care for myself because I'm all for others, particularly family.
Yeah.
Look after yourself. No. Well, yeah, I think I'd better.
Okay.
Well, since the op, because that stopped the arthritis pain straight away, it's amazing. Yeah, so I have my confidence back. I feel human again.
Yeah.
And that's a really hard thing to explain, is people don't understand when you say you don't feel like a human anymore.
How do you describe, I don't feel like I'm human? It's because you're not saying, I don't feel like my normal self anymore. You're saying, actually, I feel like I'm not even part of the human race. I'm not part of anything. I feel totally excluded or something.
Not belonging, I think.
Okay.
I think it's really a funny feeling, but yeah, you just don't feel like you're human. It's a really hard thing to explain. And
yeah. Okay, so we're going to come up to the end of time here. I shared this episode with urban planners and people who design the urban landscape, also people who are in policy in council, like how the traffic and road people, the transport team. I also share it with people who perhaps at the state level who also are involved with it. If you had a magic wand and you would say, okay, this is what I really needed at that time, this is what I needed, what would have been really made a difference for you?
I think having a footpath that I could safely walk on with the problem I had, because sometimes it wasn't hard to fall, if you know what I mean. You know, you just had to kick a amount of dirt and it was enough to topple you over. So if my footpath in Linden Court had been even, or with a concrete strip down one side of it, I would have felt that I could get out.
Yeah.
But as it was, unless I walked on the street itself, I didn't feel safe walking on the footpath.
Yeah.
Because of its unevenness. It has ruts and washouts, and not big ones, but enough for someone with a hip problem.
I was actually really shocked that I looked up the Australian Institute for Health and Welfare website, and 1 in 3 Australians is over 75.
Really?
Yeah, I was really shocked by that statistic. I was going, really? Is that true? Is that true? And maybe I've misunderstood the website, but that's my understanding. So there's statistics on people who can't drive. It's thought to be around 40%, so that's 2 in 5 people. I think here in Caboolture and Morayfield, because of the high levels of social disadvantage, I was just at a talk this morning and the local person said 9% of our kids go to university, which is way below the national standard. That's because we're in what's called the 9th centile for social disadvantage. That's the official stats. I was going, is that right? Is that right? Because I look at these stats, I'm going, what? Can that be true? And so that means that 9 in 10 Australians have more social advantage than we do. They're better off. So that means better transport, better education, better ways of getting services to be provided. They know how to ask and they know who to ask, and they're connected. And that's the thing about when you live in a poor area, you yourself might be well educated, but everyone's so kind of trying to deal with the battle of just living and getting through stuff.
That's right.
You don't necessarily have the community traction to get your voice heard. And so that's what I'm trying to do with this podcast, is to go, let's get some traction and get some stuff heard, because we are in a first world country. I'm sure somebody told me that. But gee, your experience would say, actually, that's not true.
No, not when it comes when you have a problem. I mean, I love where I live. I love the area and all that. But when I had that problem, it isolated me.
Yes.
So, and to me, it's just simple things like an even footpath,
Yeah.
you know, or a road. No, I still wouldn't walk on the road.
Okay.
I was going to say a road wide enough that
No,
you
so
could
when
feel
you
something.
widen a road, that actually increases the speed.
Yes.
So what you could do is actually be better at how you mark the road and define the edges of it. Middle line markings are actually terrible for people who are in that side space.
Yeah.
So you have to think about how do you want to use the road space. It used to be that road spaces were all about the community. They weren't about transport at all.
That's right. Yes. My boys used to play on the road at Strathpine.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, well, they might not now.
Oh, no.
Definitely.
Definitely not.
Yeah. Anything final that you would like to add?
No, I think we've covered most things.
Well, thank you very much for coming today. It's been so
you.
lovely to chat with you.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for enjoying Streets and People presented by Get Around Cabo Car Free. We publish our podcast regularly at the usual places and on our website where you can find out more about us. getaroundcabocarfree.com.au. That's www.getaround, get around, that's pretty straightforward. Cabo, C-A-B-O, that's short for Caboolture. Car Free, C-A-R-F-R-E-E. There's no hyphen in that. .com.au. Our theme music is The Thief on AM Sound, which is just like our cars on our streets, always stealing the space. So let's stop that thief.